Hello, everyone.
Hi,
My name is M9,
and I'm Nixie, and this
and this is Out of Character. We are back with episode 8, and I know we didn't expect to, but we took last week off because I had some family coming over from Florida. So you know what, Nix, we're probably gonna have to make like a Twitter or something to announce, but we'll see. We'll get to that after.
It's on my Twitter,
Oh,
but I think we should get... Yeah, we'll talk about it.
yeah, we'll talk about it though. Anyway, today for episode 8, we have Stormie of Stormie's Mods and a really good role player that I've known for a while. Hi, Stormie. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
We were excited to have you on because even though we've had modders on, I think you're probably the first that has like double dipped in both Ark and Conan. So obviously we want to talk to you in regards to that. But first of all, how are you? How's everything? How's the weather?
I'm good. It's actually sunny today and 40 something.
Sunny?
It was
Yeah.
warmer there than it was here. It's freaking cold today.
Yeah, it just got sunny, but it's the time of the evening in about an hour when the sun goes down. So.
Yeah, it's been really sad looking here in Virginia. Just gloomy and like, you know, like Batman just lost his parents type of thing. But today it was nice and sunny out. So hopefully the weekend is nice. But hello everyone and welcome back. So Stormie, let's just go ahead and dive in. Let's ask
Wait. I got my updates.
Oh my God, yes. You
I
literally
said,
just
do you
reminded
want
me
to do
too.
updates to start, and you were like, yeah.
Yep. You know, I just
Because shit went crazy in the last 2 weeks with the whole Wizards of the Coast craziness.
there's been more than we
our
thought
last episode.
there would be.
Well, the big one, I don't really want to go over everything because something major happened about 3 hours before we started.
Right.
There's a lot of little Maynard stuff, like they have their a survey out for people to fill on how they feel about things.
Right.
But then today, the big news, and I'm just gonna jump right in so we can get to Stormie. They announced that they are leaving 1.0 in place. They are not revoking it.
Well then.
Which is kind of nuts. They're also making the entirety of the SRD 5.1 under the Creative Commons license. So instead of picking and choosing certain sections that they wanted in the Creative Commons, they we're just putting the entire thing in there, which what they had picked and choose was really, really simplistic crap and didn't include basically anything that people would be able to use. They just went, screw it, we're putting the whole thing in. But the big one nobody expected to have them do was actually keep 1.0A in place, because they posted percentages after that saying we've gone through what we've got already, and almost 90% of the people who did the survey were dissatisfied with deauthorizing 1.0A.
Oof.
That is such a big percentage for any survey.
Yeah.
They had an 89% dissatisfied with deauthorizing. 88% did not want to publish content under 1.2. 62% said that they were satisfied with adding the SRD to the Creative Commons, but those that were dissatisfied wanted more in the Creative Commons. So they did it, which is kind of nuts.
You know what? I'm not actually surprised. They had been trying to like dig themselves out of this hole. That I bet you somebody at some point was just like, what if we just
yeah, what if we just kept it in place and maybe people will be a little less angry at us? But this happened this was supposed to 3 hours ago now, like really recently. just everyone's immediately jumping on the news because it's something that people really honestly didn't think they would do.
Yeah.
Across the community, people were like, they're never going to back down on that. And they did. So people are stopping for a second, but then also remembering like it's not written down yet. It's not verified. Nothing's been posted in legalese that they aren't revoking it. So people are still really careful because they could revoke it later. They haven't said they're never going to. They just said we're not going to. So
buying
that's
themselves
the
more
big
time,
news.
possibly.
Yes, exactly. While they let people calm down and then come at it again later to do whatever the fuck they want.
Stormie, how did you feel about all of this crap going on?
Well, I mean, it didn't affect me completely directly, but you know, I have people that play D&D and use the services, and so I've been following the news. I didn't check today, which is why I didn't know until Nick said that they just did that. But I'm not surprised because last night I was talking with someone, and Hasbro's been, the parent company has been taking a lot of flack about it too, even from their competitors, so who have been making fun of them for this huge scandal, over this. So while nobody expected them to retract, and like Nick said, they could completely come down, in 6 months and a year and say, well, we're changing things again. In one way, it's kind of not surprising because they've already been saying that they were losing money, and there was such a backlash.
Just another example of the internet bullying corporation.
But I really feel like this was a good thing because they were calling people making $750K a year competitors.
Right.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You make $1 billion a year, Watsy. Calm down.
It was just, they went about it entirely the wrong way.
Yes.
And then they waited too long to respond. And by the time they did respond, they realized, oh, wait a minute. This isn't, no, they're not just going to roll over and take this.
Yeah, it's like when you get into an argument with like your spouse and you think ignoring it is the solution.
Right.
The problem is everything they said, even when they did respond, was hyper analyzed. Every word they spoke, every line they said, everyone jumped on. They waited too long, and what they did say wasn't good.
Well, yeah, it was a lot of double speak. It was, saying one thing, but you could tell, they really mean another. They're trying to CYA, and it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of people who play D&D tend to be people who are lawyers and do this contract management, and so they got smacked in the face with a lot of people saying, no, we don't want that.
Yeah, and then to come out, when they finally did come out, what was it, 2 weeks later, saying,
2 weeks later,
yeah, this was just a draft. And it's like, no way, this was sent as a contract.
Right.
This is
what's
not
even
a
better
draft.
is 1.2 that they released for as the updated thing had draft written on it in massive letters and like a watermark on every page. And everyone went, well, if this one's a draft and you have draft written all over it, why wasn't on the first one, Watsy?
Right. Yeah. Poor job.
And you know what? This whole, because like, not only am I a role player or a role player in video games and tabletop games, but I'm a huge movie fan, if anybody knows that about me. And so I've been following the whole like boycott movement to not watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and they were so afraid of this movie failing because it doesn't look like a cheap movie by any means. And so many people were like, well, you know what? I was excited to watch it. Now I'm not. So it was worrying them a lot.
Yeah.
Well, even though it's made by Paramount. But
oh, I think it's going to suffer. They're still suffering. Their stock price is dumped. Even their shareholders went, wait a second. You guys said you were going to get more money out of this, not lose your entire community.
Yeah. And it just, the immediate response from those, Pathfinder and others like them who came out with
I think
their
that was
own.
that was the crazy part
Paizo,
as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
Paizo,
came out right
yeah.
after they released their statement saying we're still making the ORC. Like, good job for actually keeping that in place, Watsy. Orc is still in place. Like,
Right.
we're working on it.
Yeah.
It's a fail proof. I
You've
think it's fine.
upended the table.
Well, I think they've proved that it's necessary. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, WotC is obviously outed themselves as being very monetarily minded. Look, they even, what was it, 2 days ago, put up a sale, and still it's only like what, 10-15% off. It's not even a huge discount.
Yeah.
Paizo came out and did a 25% off. That
know.
was such a dig, and everyone's like, oh, because that was how much they were wanting to charge royalties for people. So Paizo comes out and is like, you can get our book for 25% off.
Yep. And then, yeah, like I said, 2 days ago, I think it was 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, but it was this week that I think D&D Beyond is the one that put it on sale. But they're
No problem.
they put some of their stuff on sale, but it's not even nearly as the 25%
Right.
that Paizo offered, and it's really a thumb to the nose to everybody
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
Middle
Yeah,
finger.
no, it was crazy because everyone kind of stopped and had to go, okay, so even though their wording was still, to me, it is a little awkward because on their Twitter post, the picture they posted was, we are leaving OGL 1.0A in place as is, untouched. So, like, okay, but in place, like, it still technically existed. People could still, like, everything people made was still under it.
Right.
You know,
To me, it
I
just seems
think,
like they're buying themselves time for something else. But
yeah, I
we'll
will
see.
say though, for any survey ever to have it come out close to 90% on a decision, I don't think I've ever seen that.
No, that's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
It's crazy.
But yeah, anyway, that's the updated
Nixie,
news.
thank you
Now we can move
for
on
the
to
update.
it.
Yeah, thank you for the update for sure. Since we said we were gonna be updating, and we skipped last week, but now to our guest, Stormie. Stormie, we met a long time ago, 6 years ago, maybe.
5, 6, something like that. Yeah.
And we met role playing. This is before you were modding, right?
Yes.
So what made you get into mods? Was it the same thing, like out of necessity, like there was something you wanted that didn't exist?
Well, so Josh was saying that, you know, there was some things that they didn't have, and I saw a need, and there were things that were not existing in other mods that you know, we wanted. And I've modded before for like Sims 2, and so it's
Did
not
you?
like, yeah. So I was like, I bet I could pick this up. And there, for ARC, there's actually a ton of tutorials and stuff out there.
Yeah.
Lots and lots. So it was super easy to get started in it. Now, there was some things that I did that, you know, other people hadn't done that I finally figured out, and then I think people have done it since. But that's kind of why, is because the server that we were playing on at the time,
Needed
Westeros, needed something.
Yeah. And how did you feel like jumping into the ARC dev kit?
Oh, so while working in any of the dev kits, it can be extremely frustrating at times, especially since I'm not a coder, and I'm self-taught in everything that I do. So huge learning curve occasionally, but it's fun. It's challenging. It's a challenge. It's a mental challenge that I like. And it's super satisfying when you accomplish something and then you see others taking that and, you know, using it on the server and playing with it and being like, this is amazing, you know.
Yeah, and we've seen that
And
both
say your
in
mods are great. Yeah,
yeah,
from
we've
what
seen
I've
that
seen
both
of
in
them.
Arc and Conan, like people liking the stuff
Hmm.
that you make. Which do you prefer? Is that okay to ask?
Oh yeah. Well, okay. So there's pros and cons to both.
Mhm.
Wildcard is not super great at releasing the dev kit new versions prior to releasing game updates.
Mhm.
So it was always a scramble if you needed to update the mod for because of that. Um, I think the learning curve in Conan is harder because one, there's not as many tutorials out there for it.
Right.
There are some, but the major ones are pretty well outdated, like by 3-4 years. So trying to figure out and keep up with current content is a little bit difficult. Now, I'm in the Conan modding Discord, so there's a lot of information in there. Sometimes they're friendly, sometimes they're not. So your response, if you need to ask questions, is kind of iffy. But the amazing thing about it is they put their dev kit out most of the time now since I started modding. I don't think it was this way early on, but since I started modding, it's out at least a couple of weeks before a game update. Like right now, I'm working on the most recent release of the dev kit because they just released that last week, and there's going to be an update February 7th, supposedly. The drawback with that is that, of course, that anything that you're doing, you can't upload to the server. Like if you update your mod, then it's not going to be compatible. But
Right.
so I don't know. There's
I
pros
remember
and cons to both.
when they did the big last one, sorcery. Wasn't there some issues with the dev kit not coming out on time?
It came out on time, but it was not given to us as early as they said it was going to. So
Yeah.
they had promised us 4 weeks in advance, and we didn't get that. Got 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't nearly as what I had heard rumors of, because I was hearing people say like 3 days.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that bad, but it wasn't great.
Yeah,
But
because I
in some
know
ways,
big ones like that cause problems.
yeah, they do. So the one thing they do have is they do have the test live server. They do have a test live version of the dev kit. If you have a computer and a setup that is beefy enough, you can have both, and then you can be kind of prepping with the test live stuff, bearing in mind that some of that stuff may change, in between testing and the full-on live version. But it does give modders a little bit of an idea of what's going on. I don't have that beefy of a computer, so I don't do that.
Is there something that you've been wanting to do that has been too challenging, or pretty much anything that you've wanted to do as far as modding, have you been able to accomplish it in one way or another?
So one thing that I still haven't figured out how to do is something that is the creator of the Pippi mod can do, which is lockable doors. I have not figured that out, and I really, really want to.
It's
But
funny because from an outsider in, it sounds so simple. Like just make it lockable.
Lock the door.
no, there's a whole lot of coding. And one of the things that when you're modding for a game, the game devs and the game company publisher, for a lot of reasons, will lock things behind coding that you can't access for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not good reasons. A lot of the time it is because those are core files that they don't want modders maybe changing and providing a way of bypassing something they don't want. Yeah. So that can get frustrating, but the door thing I know can be done. I just don't know how to do
Yeah.
it. And Josh Tech, the creator of Pippi, he's like, I believe, a programmer by career,
Right.
or at least, so, and I'm not. Like anything that I know, I learn by tutorials or reading and here's the thing too, is when you're modding for these are highly customized versions of the Unreal Engine. So things that would apply to the Unreal Engine don't always translate into the dev kit. Like you can go, by all means, you can look up how to lock doors, but that coding doesn't necessarily translate to the Conan dev kit the way the basic Unreal Engine handles it.
Is the coding mostly written, or is there any visual coding at all that you can just
It's
drop down?
it's so it handle backend coding is handled through C++.
Hmm.
And I don't know any of that, and we can't touch any of that. We don't do it that way. It's I think there are some workarounds, but that's beyond my skill level. And where people use that for certain functions, but you really can't change any of that kind of thing. What you can change are what are called blueprints, and blueprints are like, have you ever seen mushy coding in Pippi at all? Have you ever?
I've seen some, which is uh like just like all the things connecting to like one another
Yeah.
based
So
on like ifs or whats.
yeah, it's above that, but that's a very simplistic explanation. It's connecting nodes together, and some of the nodes are hard-coded information that
Hmm.
you can utilize within the blueprint. Some of it you can create your own new kind of information, but there are limitations, and especially since I'm not trained in those fields, there are things that I just don't know how to do it. I'm just guessing. I'm pulling shit out of my hat.
But you said something about like it's fun, like problem solving and trying to figure things out, because like me working on my own game that I've been doing for a while is there's obviously me things just making it up as I go along, but with that comes problems, and then there's a huge satisfaction in figuring things out, like when something
Yes,
finally works.
finally works. I know.
Yeah.
So one of the recent things that I figured out how to do was how to go in and make it so that in my new crafting station mod, the crafting thralls don't show in the station. So it's better for server performance. They don't show it entirely. Now that was like a week-long process of breaking the blueprint, trying things out. This doesn't work, that doesn't work, this kind of works, but then when you relog it's not working. you know
Oh yeah.
Finally got it
Bunch of
figured
trial
out.
and error, yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of trial and error. And right now I'm working on a new mod, which will take a while because it's going to be really intensive, and I'm calling it Farm to Table. It's going to be heavily based on new farming, new crops, new things to grow and then turn into foods, because
my God.
Im knows that this is a passion of mine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite thing to do in Conan is make food.
And that's
It was my favorite thing to do as roleplay in
that's
Ark.
kind of what you had in
And
Ark, right?
yeah. So there are limitations, there are differences in the thing. I cannot make it so that you can do custom recipes like an Ark.
Mhm.
But what I
Aw.
can do is make it so that the crafting process is a little more in depth. So, for example, I'll have 18 new crops, and new planters with it. And one of the new planter meshes is looks like a furrowed field. So it's just like dirt.
Oh, so you can have like a wheat field or something like that.
Right. So, and I
Yeah.
have managed to figure out how to make it show 4 plants in one thing, because they're different sizes. I have, 1x1 sizes and 1x4 sizes, and the 1x4 sizes, I figured out how to make 4 plants show up on the, and that was a big thing this past week. trying to figure that out and get them to. There's still a little wonky thing for some reason. The lotus plants, because I'm trying to make it compatible with the vanilla stuff too. The lotus plants, I put them in the planter, and they were ginormous. And it was only in this, creating the where you could see 4 of them that this happened in the single 1x1 plot. It's just like normal, and I'm like, why is this happening? So I
Yeah,
figured a workaround, but not ideal, but it'll work.
that
I
sounds
think that's
really
kind
cool
of
though.
modding though in general, isn't it? Is you find the workaround and this will do.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I was always interested in modding, but I not interested enough to actually do it. And I never got into it in Conan, but like I downloaded the dev kit on Arc, and I was like, this is a nightmare. And that's as far as that lasted. My modding career.
I will tell you though that having modded in Arc did help me when I went to go mod in Conan, because some of the functions are still kind of similar. Like understanding what a blueprint is, understanding like what, static meshes are, skeletal meshes, how to texture, that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I learned something new every day to improve. So even with my first Conan mod, I've learned new things since then, just in the last couple months.
Yeah, I can imagine. As you're getting into like different things, because some, I can imagine that like doing decor and stuff is probably one of the easiest things, and then when you start getting into like actual mechanics, that's when it starts probably getting very complicated.
Yes, decor is one of the easier things. Now, one of the things with the decor that you have to be careful with is what they call the collision,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
and making sure that that's done properly. Because if you are using, say, a Conan piece to kind of copy and then put your own mesh into, that collision may not match what you have, and so that's when you find things that people have modded in mods that you're running into the item kind of funny,
Yeah.
or it won't sit close to something else, or that kind of thing. And I try very, very hard to get that done well.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that people usually are able to point at and go, "Oh, this isn't quite right."
Exactly.
Because
Right,
you
yeah.
put it down and you're like, "Why can't I put it next to the wall?"
Yeah, exactly. And I ran into some issues in that myself in the early days, because it's confusing at first. It doesn't work kind of quite the way you think it does. Now I've learned enough to I've got kind of an idea of how it works, and I'm getting better and better at being able to do it.
Yeah. Is there a game that maybe coming up, or a game that perhaps you've been interested in like modding, or like a dream modding game?
Not a dream. Of course, I'm keeping an eye on Arc 2, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
keeping an eye on when Dune Awakening comes out.
Yeah.
Arc 2 is supposed to come out with
With mod support.
built-in mod support from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that, if it plays like we expect it all to play, that it will be the new RP platform for a bit.
Yeah. I think it will be.
Mm-hmm.
When you really think about Arc and how long we've been using Arc as an RP medium platform, even though it's not the greatest of games, like it's very outdated in some of the ways that it just works. Yet it's almost like the same age as Conan. So it's hard to
Yeah.
understand that divide between those two
Well,
games.
It has to do with the way they customize the engine. Now, here's the interesting thing: Conan is so customized; they have no intention of updating it. Funcom has no intention of updating it to the Unreal Engine 5. However, Wildcard just confirmed that they are updating Arc 1 to the Unreal Engine 5 engine.
Really?
What does
Yes.
that do for the game itself?
Okay, so I don't know, can't remember exactly what version of Unreal Engine 4 that Arc is on. Conan's on 4.15. So that's archaic. Each engine version comes out as improved in what it can and cannot do. And Unreal Engine 5 is extremely I'm losing the words that I want to use, but it is phenomenal in what you can do in it and how realistic you can make 3D characters look.
Performance
And
optimized.
performance wise, yeah,
I
exactly.
actually think I saw a game that was advertising it coming out soon where they're using Unreal Engine 5 where they have base building that doesn't pop out of existence when you go far away from it. So the render and it
Yeah,
doesn't
they
cause
have
a performance effect when you get close.
they have this new technology which I'm assuming works like the like LODs and stuff like that. But for example, there's a huge, and you can look this up um on YouTube or whatever. But there's like this project that um they take like the Matrix city and you could see it in Unreal, and from a distance you can kind of still see cars moving, um like no matter how far back you are. But it's done in such a way that it's very performance friendly. And I think that that's kind of what like what Stormy's saying is like that's the point of it being renewed, right, and improved on.
Yeah, it's less it renders much more optimized. But I'll be honest, I was kind of surprised when I heard that, given that Arc 2 is supposed to come out soon, that
I'm
they
surprised.
were expending the resources to update it
I'm
to.
surprised because I don't know why.
Well, so you want to know my speculation?
Yeah.
Given Wildcard, that Arc 2 isn't going to come out when we think it is. Otherwise, I don't understand. Personally, I wouldn't expend the team and the resources and stuff to update it.
If they're gonna have Arc 2 come out at that point, it's like, wait, why are you updating the first game and releasing it?
It wouldn't surprise me at fucking all if they're like, we're gonna push this off. And it's just like, that is just their way of being, existing. Like, that is how they operate.
Yeah, I mean, it's typically their updates. They'll give an update, and then it's like 3 months later or 6 months later. So I wouldn't be surprised if Arc 2 was pushed off. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not why they're doing it. But I honestly, I don't know. I personally, with Arc 2 coming out, don't see the need to update Arc 1 unless Arc 2 isn't going to play the way we think it is, and they're kind of hedging their bets or something. But
I don't want to say that I have high hopes for Arc 2, but I have high wishes.
Yeah.
Do they have any gameplay? I haven't seen any gameplay for Arc 2.
No, all they have is the Senate. Yeah, it's just the cinematic.
That's why it's so nerve-wracking. Like, I don't know what it's going to be like at all to even make a like wish for it at this point.
Yeah, well, and they're drastically changing, like the way the combat works and some other things. So
I welcome that because I hate Arc combat.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but
yeah, but it makes me nervous just because they don't have a good track record, like at all.
With being on time. Yeah.
Their releases are you shaky at best.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing gameplay.
Yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic, but yeah.
Yeah. Then there's like, and you probably wouldn't have a lot to say about this, but then there's all the games that don't have native mod support that still get all these mods. Um, and I I can't even begin to understand that. Um, but I welcome it. I love the modding community. It keeps games alive way longer than they should. Um,
How Ark is still
it
around, like, honestly.
completely, yeah.
Yeah, honestly. Well, even Conan,
Conan, yeah.
Yeah.
both games would not have the traction they do. And here's the thing. I think any company that comes out now with a survival game that doesn't come out with modding support, especially like Wildcard and Funcom, who've had games that
Hmm.
are being extensively used for roleplay, are kind of biting their nose off to spite their face. They're
Mm-hmm.
they're hampering themselves because without modders and without the roleplay community, these games wouldn't have the population that they do.
Yeah, there's been a bit of a lull in good survival games, but then
Oh yes,
there was a
Well,
bit
there's
of fatigue also because like every other game that was coming out was a survival game at one point.
yeah, there was a
yeah, but
huge
it
like
was
rush of them, but none of them were good for role play
Mhm.
like at all.
right. Yeah, I mean they underperformed. They didn't have the features that you would need to use
Content.
for roleplay. They didn't have yeah the ability to do certain things. Either VoIP didn't work right, or they didn't
Mm,
have private server ability, or
that's a
Yeah,
big one right
there's
now.
always something that kind of dooms certain games. Um because from like our community that like for example Josh, he'll see a game and he's like, well, I'm putting up a server, like, and then like it'll make it maybe a week or probably less if it's not any good. And the community knows what they need and what they want. um and I think that goes for any game now.
Mhm. I honestly think more companies should. Now, granted, I understand that role play is kind of a niche
Hmm.
um, group, but there are enough of us that I think more companies should be keeping an eye on that and
Oh, yeah.
being aware of that. And if their game could potentially be used for that, be a little bit more open to
Yeah.
Well, did you pay attention with
catering.
Life is Feudal? Back in the day when Life is Feudal was really big, they had a huge roleplay community that they were actively promoting on their Twitter, on their YouTube pages, everything. And then they came out with Life is Feudal MMO, which basically just spit in all the role players' faces and functionality. Tried to put all of their PvPers together with their role players, and the game full had died. Just done.
Yeah, by the time
Like,
I started role playing, Life Was Feudal was dead.
yeah. I was there early on ish to Life is Feudal. And I watched the slow deaths as servers tried to keep going, and then they shut down Life is Feudal Your Own for a little while or something. And that because they wanted everyone to go to the MMO, but the MMO was basically just throwing PvPers and role players together into a single giant world, and it went real bad. Like
Yeah.
people, role players were like, "We're not going to do that. Bye. We'll go find another game." People went to Arc.
Yeah. And I think it goes
Yeah.
beyond even role playing. I think modding is so healthy for any game because it just keeps adding content. And actually, there is a game in virtual reality, Half-Life Alyx, that it critically acclaimed game. It did great. However, like people making like their own maps, their own like storylines and everything with the with the assets from the game just keeps giving it life, and it's the game that keeps giving pretty much. and
Hmm.
and I think that is very important for like developers to get through their head, because as long as you let people customize their experience, your game will always be around, like Arc. And when people are interested, you'll get more people that buy the game to join in, to do things. Like when people were playing Pokemon in Arc, when people were doing Star Wars in Arc, like it's all these different
Mhm.
things that I think they're just shooting themselves in the leg if they decide not to like support mods.
Well, like look at GTA and Red Dead. You
Mm-hmm.
know, those two are extremely hard to provide custom content for.
Yep.
And at first, well, what's the publisher? I can't remember right
Rockstar?
now. Rockstar, thank you.
Yeah.
Was extremely resistant,
Oh, they
and
shut down so many people trying to make
Hmm.
mods for roleplay.
yeah, and until 5M was finally successful, and they finally realized maybe we shouldn't keep fighting this in the way that we're fighting it. Now, did they make it easier? No,
No.
Right.
no. And I think that's I get why they're doing it. They're a big company. They don't have to. They're making money despite. But I think that they're missing an opportunity
Oh
by
yeah.
not making it easier. Because frankly, GTA 5 is the RP community is what's keeping that alive as far as I'm
Oh,
concerned.
for sure.
Oh yeah.
People, it would not have nearly the popularity right now if it wasn't for like servers like NoPixel, who everybody, if you know GTA, you probably have heard of, NoPixel and their roleplay stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, not only and like No Pixel has gotten so big that it's in mainstream news.
Mm-hmm.
You can go into
And
like Otaku and like all these big sites that talk about every different games will have articles on what the characters on NoPixel are getting up to. Like,
yeah,
Yeah. No, there's definitely games that would be dead. Like just point and blank, like dead. Like GTA, Arc would have died so long
oh
ago.
yeah, like
oh, it would.
4 years ago, 5
Yeah.
years ago. Because look at the content that they've been putting out. The maps they've been putting out that were created by modders that
Mm-hmm.
they took into the company, and were much more user friendly than their own maps that they put out. And yeah, that game. What kind of once you finished it, you finished it.
Yeah. I've installed and uninstalled Arc so many times in my life.
I think I still have it installed, but I am not playing it. I don't have any intention of playing it.
Mine's been uninstalled for more than a year at this point, and I don't plan on installing it again. I put way too many hours into that game.
So
Oh yeah, I have to. How many hours do you have?
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, no, you guys have me beat by a lot.
Let me look. I have to find it. I'm just shy of 5,000.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna guess you beat me real bad.
13K
Jeez.
on one
Yeah,
account.
Not quite that. I
Yeah.
started, but I started quite a bit afterwards, and I stopped playing and came back and stopped playing. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think
It
there's
was
anything in my life except for breathing that I've done for that much time or more.
right.
Or sleeping. I probably.
Yeah, I mean, I spent way too many hours in it. But kind of once I discovered roleplay back in Twitch RP's first year, their third, I think it was pretty much their third season is, their second season is when I found out that Twitch existed and that people were streaming and that people were
Mhm.
like, I was like, oh my God, they're acting in a game? This is a thing?
Yeah.
And I've always been interested in drama. In real life,
In drama. Somebody clip
in-
that.
okay, listen.
Out of context,
Listen.
that's great.
Not that kind of drama, but
Theater.
I've always been shy in real life. But
Mhm.
in high school, I did participate with the drama club and worked backstage and that kind of stuff. At the high school that I went to, they still had theater and I mean they actually had a theater on the campus, a little one.
Yeah.
so I did that kind of stuff, and when I found out, it's like, because I never role played outside. I never did D&D or any other
Mhm.
tabletop role play games. I didn't really role play in any kind of forum aspect.
Yeah.
I just
No, I don't
happened
see
to
you as like a
stumble.
LARP type of person.
No, I mean dressing up, I'm sure would be fun, but no. uh,
Well,
the
so
the
what gave you the first? Do you remember who you found
Yeah, like what
first
was
to
it?
show you that
I
roleplay existed?
I do remember who I found first. It was Game With Me. It was Mitch.
Oh, Game With Me. I know them.
So yeah, Mitch is amazing. I don't actually know what he's doing these days, but uh, it was his stream, and it was the frog. Uh, oh, I can't even remember what the name of the group was, but the frog people, and it watching him, and he was funny out of character, and the stuff that was going on was really funny. And then I started watching other people that he was interacting with, so like Awkward Kitty and
Oh
a
yeah,
couple,
Awkward Kitty. I remember them. Yeah.
yeah, even a few others, and then Mr. Moonhouse. I found Mr. Moon,
I've
so
roleplayed with Mr. Moon. He
I
was
have too.
cool. Yeah, it's so
I'm
exciting when
in
you
one
meet
of
him.
his I'm in one of his movies
Which
briefly,
one?
but I am. Uh, one of the ARC ones. I don't even know if it's,
Oh,
but very
I
very
think
briefly,
I might
just a
have been in
cameo.
one of them. Because I was the witch that was going to provide him with a poison to kill the king on the my Life is Feudal server.
Oh, great.
He came to
Yeah.
me and was like, "I want a poison to kill the king."
I so back when the house was playing on Twitch RP and kind of ran it and pretty much, and we're heavily involved in the leadership of it, along with Game With Me and stuff. That's when I discovered Twitch RP and got involved. So I was meeting all of these really 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 good role players, and that was my first experience. Now, I made some really dumb mistakes my first year. Really, really dumb ones.
Everyone does their first year.
I didn't.
It was bullshit.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
But yeah, that was my first experience. And then after that, it was kind of like I was hooked. And then I got ill with something doctors still couldn't diagnose. They were like, "Oh, your tests are fine." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not." And I couldn't work anymore, so I was at home, living at home, and I had a lot of time on my hands, unfortunately.
And there you go, right into it you went.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's good or bad. I can't say it's bad because I've met some amazing people along the way who have become really, really good friends, and I've had some really amazing experiences along with some really, really bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the definition of roleplay these days. Is
The
you
roleplay
live for the
communities.
good ones, you're gonna run into the bad ones, and you kind of just take what you can get.
Yeah,
But I like to
and I've
think that
had
there's more good than bad.
I think I've had more good than bad, and I've done the gamut from being a player to being an admin and staff and modding. So
you get to get like all sorts of hate from different angles.
exactly. Yeah.
But
Yeah. So, but I was talking to my friend Sarah, and I met her through roleplay, and she had recently posted on Twitter that it had been 7 years since she had discovered that you could roleplay in a video game, and I'm like, 7 years? I started roleplaying before she did,
oh wow.
and probably 6 months before she did, maybe a year even. So I was like, oh my gosh, I've been roleplaying for 8 years. Time flies.
I have not been wrong for that
Yeah, how long? Where are you at, M9?
long. Probably about 5-ish years because I started with Josh.
Right. That's
Five,
right,
6
because
years.
I met you 4 years ago,
Yeah.
and you've been role playing for a bit by then. If you count forum roleplay when I first started, I'm officially past 19 years of roleplaying.
That's awesome. And that, like, there are other people
Fucking
there,
nerd.
and it's just
I
like,
know.
that's incredible. I'm such a baby compared to that.
Um, but
But I mean, yeah,
Stormy, we've had some good role play as well. I've always been
yeah.
fun to role play with, and as some people might know, she plays a really good villain as well.
Oh.
But yeah, I think we spoke about this in one of our previous episodes on how different games allow you to create like different environments, like the things that you can do in Conan that we did for some of the themes and some of the scenarios and some of the events. You can't do that in Arc, you know, and it allowed you and some of the other team members to create these amazing immersive experiences for the the community. And how do you see, do you feel like modding definitely aids in that, or is there only
Yes.
so much you can do with
Well, I
the
mean, there
base
is
game?
only so much you can do, but and I mean, there's a lot of things you could do even with the base game, but the the addition of even things just like even if you use no other mod, the addition of for example in Conan Pippi, it just opens a world of
Mm-hmm.
things that is just not possible with the base game. And I think in order to create the experiences that we were able to, that we wouldn't have been able to do it to the extent that we did without mods. That's very much a thing. Even so, for example, back when I was adminning in ARC, and one of the very first bigger, one of the first communities I was in after Twitch RP, they the things we were doing, because we handled it as if it was a GM'd or DM'd story, were incredible at the time because it was still in the infant stages and there were very few mods and stuff out that you could use, practically none. And we still had these really, really amazing experiences. But what you can do now,
Yeah.
100 times different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The changes just over time as more mods come out, giving you more access to do crazier things. You
Yeah.
just like I can't like I we talked like what we were saying with the immersive experience, that fucking house in the woods.
Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
had something like that before, and it was blown away by what Conan could do just in general, like with mods, just as a game. I was like, holy, this is a thing.
Yeah, well,
It was
I think that we were ended up kind of pushing for some freedom that we ended up being kind of reluctantly allowed to have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which was why we were able to do those experiences. And without Pippi, even after some of the updates where it struggled, but without Pippi and being able to select a player and teleport them to you or teleport them away, or do all these things that you can't do in the base game, we wouldn't have been able to do that
you
experience.
can't
Now
teleport people in base game.
you can, but it's much more
More
complicated.
Oh,
difficult. Yeah, like
interesting.
in the admin panel.
uh, yeah, there's not even, Conan doesn't even have an admin panel like Arc does. It's much easier to teleport people around in Arc than it is in Conan.
Mm-hmm.
To teleport yourself around in base game, you enable admin and you click on the map and
On the
stuff.
map, right?
I think, yeah, to teleport a person to you, I believe the way you have to do it is you have to open up the terms
Console.
are not the console. Thank you. You have to open up the console. You have to enter the teleport coordinates. You have to enter like the player name or their Steam
Oof. Yeah,
ID.
can you imagine
And
having to do that like on the go?
yeah, and there's no way we would have been able to have the response times and stuff
Right.
that we did. I know OX2. He
We're old
played.
friends.
He played on Dark Side when
Mhm.
Dark Side was
I was
using
on Dark Side
Arc.
too.
I was too.
I was on the Arc server for Dark Side.
I was too. Were you?
Yeah.
I knew your name.
Yeah.
Was familiar.
Yeah, I got booted off of there.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was like, I know that name because I role played with.
Uh-huh.
We were friends. Our characters were
Yeah,
friends.
OX actually made my the image that I show on the podcast on the Twitch.
Oh yeah.
That dragon face. Did that for
Mhm.
me. So hi OXO.
I know. Never did get the house on the hill.
So, you made a comment on how, how Pippi makes things so much easier, right? And that's its own mod. How is the modding community towards each other, in like Conan or Arc?
Oh, you're talking about modders to modders?
Yeah.
I mean, it's personalities. It depends. So I only did the one mod for Arc, and it was
Mhm.
very, very highly customized for the Game of Thrones server.
Right.
So I didn't really communicate a whole lot with the other modders, and I was able to find pretty much most of the information I needed without really having to ask a whole bunch of questions in their Discord. Conan, I'll be honest, I hate asking questions. So I will do everything I possibly can to find the answer before I ask. And from what I've observed, the response is varied. Some days you get a really, really good, helpful response. Some days the response is figure it out yourself, or, or just flat out there is none. There are times when people have asked questions, and I don't know that whether it's that somebody at the time doesn't know the answer. There are a lot of things that go on in the Discord. Maybe people just don't completely keep up, but sometimes it seems like the person is just being ignored because other modders don't want to share their knowledge.
Right.
And there is a distinct lack of current tutorial videos for Conan modding. There are old ones, which some are still relevant, and they will get you kind of on the right track. And there is some written documentation, and you can search the Discord, like, and a lot of the times find the answer, but a lot of the times you can't.
Yeah, that seems frustrating.
So, I mean, it varies, varies from person to person. Sometimes I think it's the time of the moon. And I'm sure it gets really frustrating for those who are more experienced to answer the same questions over and over and over and over and over again. So, that probably plays a factor. That's one reason why I try to do my due diligence and do exhaust every search term I can possibly think of before I try and ask a question.
All right, well, Nixie, before we wrap up, do you have any other questions? Nixie, we may have lost the Nixie.
We've lost Nixie to the void.
So, I think I'll ask you one last thing, and that is, what is it that you're working on? Are you doing something? Are you excited about? Is it for like something very specific, or just something that you're passionate about, like your farming mod?
What I'm working around right now is, and I'm doing it when I feel like it, and not really stressing myself out. But right now, modding wise, what I'm doing is working on that farm to table mod. I'm extremely passionate about that. My feelings on cooking and cooking role play and that kind of thing. Oh, her net went poof.
Internet died.
So I am super, super excited. I'll tell you what my goals are for that mod. My goals are to make that my farm to table mod it, to be the mod to go to for, really cool kitchen decor, farming things,
Hmm.
food items, consumables, uh, for specifically centered around uh, role play regarding cooking. So taverns,
Yeah.
uh, cafes, restaurants, that kind of stuff. And as authentically his, as I can get with the food. I don't put modern foods in. You're not going to find bacon and tomato sandwiches or
Pizza.
hot dogs or hamburgers or pizza. I don't do that
Yeah,
because it's immersion breaking.
it
Now, if
is.
I can find a way to put it in and make it seem historical, like for example, I put pizza on in my Arc mod, but it wasn't called pizza. What did I call it? Flatbread with uh, cheese and toppings or something. I forget what I call it, but
Yeah.
no, I'll do that. But I do super, super extensive research when I'm looking for food inspiration, and will go and look at historical data and see what's available during medieval times. I research pretzels before I put pretzels in, to, and they actually were a thing. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
really passionate about that. You know, obviously, there's some things that kind of slide in there, but I really, really try to keep it immersive
Yeah.
so
No, I
that
think that's really cool. Because like the whole like I played a tavern keep at one point, and um there is there isn't that many things that you could do that are still very immersive, and keep things interesting. As far as like farming and stuff as well, I think it's really cool, and I've seen some of the screenshots and stuff that you've shared, and that looks so cool. I love that there's like the little mounds instead of like crop plots. Um,
yeah, I have those. There will be planners and
mhm,
that kind of thing. But yeah, I was so excited. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I
mhm.
was so excited when that um, asset pack finally went on sale on Unreal Engine, and I was able to afford it. I spent some of my Christmas money on purchasing it because it was something that I've wanted for a really long time.
Yeah,
So
you're gonna have to set up a Patreon or something.
I probably should, but I
Especially like
haven't as yet.
once you release this and people start annoying you about updates and stuff.
Ah, yeah. I mean, I pretty much am flat out. I'll consider. I don't mind suggestions by all means, especially if there's something that's not working right, or I mean, even if
Mhm.
it's something you want to see, I'll consider suggestions. But the reality is, one, it may not fit the inspiration for what I'm doing, so that may be why it doesn't go in. Or two, I may just not have the money. I'll be like, I don't have the money for that.
Yeah.
And I'm real. And here's the one thing, I don't mind being supported, but what I'm really leery of is allowing someone to, unless I trust the person, real is allowing a stranger to, say, hey, I want this specifically sponsored and I want it named that, and because I'm not into
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Like buying their way into your mod is a
Right,
different.
right. Yeah, I'm really not a fan of that. I don't like that. And it's like, you know, have I put in custom things? Yes, but that's usually because I've known the person for a while, or there's something that I've put in because I'm frankly I'm friends with the person and it's my mod, and if I want to put something in for them, I will.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that M9 thing, but we won't go there.
Listen, you never asked me for anything.
No, I really haven't. Um, but yeah, I think we'll go ahead and wrap things up.
It's been an
Stormy,
hour.
thank you so much for hanging out and talking to us and answering all of the questions on like modding and stuff like that. Um, hopefully, sometime in the future when we get all these other games out, I'm really excited about Dune as well that you mentioned, um, and Arc 2. So
I
um,
want Dune so badly.
yeah, so we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about like modding in these games as well. But thank you for hanging
Thank
out.
you for having
Nixie's internet
Thank you,
died. Oh,
Stormy.
she's back.
I came back just at the end there.
So
Thank
thank
you
But thank
both.
you so much, Stormy.
thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.
My
Bye,
pleasure.
everybody.